Well, my biggest life-changing moment occurred in the 1990, where Saddam Hussein occupied Kuwait, and I was a professor at Kuwait University, where overnight I lost my job. And then after that, I was fortunate to come to the US to give a lecture, and I was looking for a job, and I needed help to stay for 1 week longer in the US to go and meet with people in the field of medical mycology.
Yeah.
And I approached a person, a travel agent, Jimmy Dorsey, asked him to help me to change my ticket so that I can come and meet these people. And guess what? He helped me. He gave me $80. And then I was able to come back, go to this meeting with the people, and I got 2 jobs that night. This was a moment in my life which I can never forget. And it's sort of made up all my life in a better way, not only for me as a person, for my family, for my grandkids, and it made me very, very grateful for this man.
I'm Dr. Larry Burchett, and as I see every day in the ER, life has changed. On this show, we tell the stories that matter most, after which we are never the same. We've got a truly incredible guest for you today, Dr. Mahmoud Ghannoum.
Yes.
Thank you for coming to the show.
It's really my great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I just want to say that, I want to say this to you guys. This is a treat. I'm just going to say it. This guy's a big deal. He might be the world's expert in microbiome. All of this stuff we're talking about with gut health, and this has been your area of research for your career.
It really is.
Right?
It really is, yes. And thank you very much for your kind words. You know, it started many, many years ago.
Tell me about it.
It was about 1974 when I went to England to do my doctorate. And my supervisor, or what you call a mentor here, he gave me a paper published paper, where a rabbit which was treated with an antibiotic, guess what happens? Very easily developed a fungal infection called Candida. So that told
Where
me,
was that fungal infection?
it was in the systemic. Basically, it was systemic infection for because the rabbit was highly immunocompromised. If you have any issues with your immune system, or you take, for example, antibiotics, you become susceptible to the fungus.
Yeah.
And that's where I started the journey, which told me, you know, in our body, we not only have bacteria, we also have fungus. Okay.
Yeah, and this is a big thing, because people, and I want you to pay attention here, because a lot of the talk about microbiome is on prebiotics and probiotics, and it's bacteria-centered. But what your book is all about, we're going to talk about your book, Total Gut Balance, is that fungi play a big role in this as well, and we haven't talked a lot about that.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look into the published literature, even media and whatever, most of the people, when they talk about the microbiome, just to define it, it's organisms that live on and in our body, you know, in the gut, in the mouth, in our skin, all over the place. They focus really on bacteria. To me, I think in our body, we have not only bacteria, we have also fungus. And they play together. Either they play nicely and we are healthy, or they can cause us havoc. And that's what I try to bring the attention to.
Let me just kind of chime in as the ER doctor, because I explain this to people all the time. So the most common thing is somebody will have a cut in their skin that turns into an infection, which we call cellulitis, that runs up your arm. And that's typically bacteria.
Sure.
That's a staph infection or a strep infection. Those bacteria normally live on your skin and don't cause any problems, but when they cause disease, that's when we really pay attention to them, treat them with antibiotics. And like you're saying, I would say in the hospital, most of the stuff disease-wise we deal with is bacteria, but there's still a fair amount of fungal. Candida is absolutely the #1 offender, you know, the type of fungus that causes disease.
In fact, studies have shown that Candida in particular is the 3rd most common infection in hospitalized patients.
Oh, I believe it.
Do you believe it? Like before, you just think it's staph, for example. But now, multiple studies shows that it is fungi as well.
Like catheter-related stuff,
Absolutely.
IVs, catheters that are in, or feeding tubes, all these kind of things.
And you as an ER surgeon, if you have surgical, you know, peritoneal surgery or abdominal surgery, a lot of the time you are also exposed to having Candida infection.
This is going to be a good conversation because I mean it was. And how long ago did I go to medical school? 15 or 20 years ago. And in my microbiology class, we did do fungus, but it was one test.
Yes.
Right? You know, it's not as big of a focus. And so I'm excited to talk all about this, what foods help your gut to support healthy fungus, you know, stress, you know, all these things, and help you, a PhD guy, you know, with great expertise, sort this out for us.
Sure, it will be a pleasure.
Let's hold some of that for a little bit later. Now, I want to ask you a couple questions. So I know you through your son, Afif. Great guy.
Yeah,
good friend of mine. I met him at CHS, and he's like, "You got to have my dad on the show." And so I'm really happy that you're here.
Thank you.
He was telling me, so you are Lebanese, is that correct?
Yes, I am from Beirut.
And you grew up in Beirut?
Yes.
Okay. So you were telling me, you were just getting started about how you started to get into your PhD. Is your PhD in microbiology?
In microbial physiology, but microbiology.
Okay, microbial physiology in London.
Yeah.
And then, so how did you end up in the United States in the microbiome?
So this is sort of a defining moment in the life of myself, my family, and my children. Just to take you back to a little bit to Beirut, I was born in Beirut. I did my BS, Bachelor of Science, at American University of Beirut in biology chemistry. And then when I finished that, I went to England to do my PhD in microbial physiology, and that's where we started to look at Candida and how it is affected by steroids, by antibiotics.
What initially interested you in all of that?
You know, really, as a student, I had not much choice. My supervisor gave me this paper. He said, "This is what you work on." But what's made it so interesting, when I went and started reading about it to get ready to do my research, I was really very excited. Why? Because we did not have too many infections caused by fungus, like you alluded to.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, what I noticed that we are starting to use so many antibiotics, so many drugs, steroids, and also our patients, we start, like cancer patients, we give them chemotherapy, we lower their immunity, and lo and behold, we are seeing an increase in this fungal infection. And that's what really excited me about it.
Like you were discovering something that nobody knew.
No, exactly.
But it was true.
It is true, because like we didn't know before. When I started, as I say, searching the literature, you know, when you first start your dissertation or research for dissertation, you look at the literature, and one thing I learned is that if a woman takes tetracycline, which is an antibiotic,
she's going to get a yeast infection.
It gets yeast infection.
I know that one.
So that's exactly what made it excited to me, because I thought, wow, we really need to understand, and we need to start to think fungus. I always say to people, you have to think fungus. You know, for example, when somebody goes into a hospital, or you go to the doctor, you have fever, they give you antibiotic. Even though the fever does not go, they don't think that it is possibly that fungus is causing the issue. Okay?
Less likely. I do work in the Central Valley of California, where there's all kinds of valley fever and cocci.
Yes, cocci.
So a fungal infection in the lung or disseminating, it's been different. But that now, I think, where I'm like, could this be tuberculosis, cocci or pneumonia, a
Yes.
bacterial infection in the lung.
Which is really great news, because when I first came to the US, people really did not know much about fungus. But
Yeah.
now, the medical mycology community really did a good job educating people to think fungus. You know?
Yeah, you gotta push that a little
push
bit.
it. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah. Okay, so you got into this in London, you did your PhD there, and then what happened with you and your family?
And then I took my first job, first in Malta, a beautiful Mediterranean Sea island. And then after that, I became a faculty member at the University of Kuwait. And we stayed there with my family for 11 years.
And Afif was born there, right?
Afif was born in England 3 months before we went to Kuwait. So he was a baby when we went to Kuwait.
Okay, so he was born in England.
In England,
okay.
yeah. But my other two kids...
He likes to tell me he's from Kuwait, kind of half. But now that I know,
Yeah.
he's actually born in London.
He was born in London, but his sister and brother were born in Kuwait.
Okay.
And it was really good life, you know.
Kuwait?
In Kuwait, it was good. You know, you are a faculty, they give you, there is no tax, there is nothing, so you don't even think about it.
There's no tax?
There's no tax there.
Wow.
So we had good life. And every year we used to go to England for the summer vacation. You know, Kuwait is very hot in the summer. So they close the university and you go for 2 months. We go to England, we go to Cyprus, we go vacation.
Travel, yeah.
And we then in 1990, we were in England, and we are 1 week of going back to Kuwait, and then Saddam Hussein decided to invade Kuwait.
Yeah. Iraq invades
Iraq,
Kuwait in 90.
1990.
Wow.
At that time, Afif woke me up in the morning. He said, Dad.
Is he like 10 or something?
He was 10.
Yeah.
Exactly. He said, Dad, they took Kuwait. So you can imagine, overnight, we are in our vacation clothes, holiday clothes, and I have no job, I have nothing. So
Saddam invades Kuwait, you can't go back.
I can't go back.
You don't have a job. It's just, it's all like shut down, or the whole country? Like,
the whole country was occupied. So, so what happened is I was very fortunate, okay, because I was invited to give a talk at the Willard Hotel in DC on, of all subjects, the effect of garlic on Candida.
What?
Honestly, this is I started to do.
Is this the garlic farmers of America that invited you for that?
I know who invited me were from California, but I don't know whether they are the farmers or not. So anyway, I had my visa, I had everything. So I called them. I say, send me the ticket to England. So they sent me the ticket to England, and then I say, okay, I am here now. I need to get a job. Okay.
Okay.
So I went to the National Institute of Health and met with Dr. Jack Bennett. He was the intramural program director of fungus, the study of fungus.
Okay.
So I called him. I said, listen, I am so-and-so. I lost my job. I need a job.
Yeah.
He said, who are you? I said, I am Mahmoud Ghannoum. You know, I lost my job. So he was very kind man. I owe him a lot.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you need to come the week after. We have a meeting for fungal, it's called Animal Models in Fungal Infections. Everybody who is in fungus coming to DC. You should come and see them. I said, I can't stay. I have no money. You know, the meeting was finishing and they paid for me to stay in the hotel, but I have to go now. So I was going back to the hotel. I said to him,
you're in DC?
I was in DC.
And you needed to be where for this fungal meeting?
In DC. I have to stay another week in DC.
You need to stay in DC for a week. Okay.
So I couldn't afford it. So I said, listen, I'll give you my papers and you help me. Going to the hotel, I saw a travel agent, a black guy.
Yeah.
I said to him, honestly, I don't know if I do it now or not. I went to him, I said to him, listen, you are a black guy, you know suffering, you have to help me. He looked at me, he said, what do you want? I say, I wanted to change my ticket. I have a friend of mine in Milwaukee. I want to go to stay with him 1 week, and then I come back. The guy did it.
He changed
He
your
changed
ticket.
my ticket.
He wasn't supposed to do that?
No, because he's, you know, I mean, he said, I will add a leg to your trip. I say, I know, but I need, you know, you have to help me. I need to get a job.
So he gave you like a free ticket?
He gave me free ticket. So I came back to DC after staying with my friend for a week in Milwaukee. And guess what? Jack Bennett invited me to his house. He invited all the principal investigators, all the leaders in the Fungus, to his house, you know, for party. You know how it is after at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
That evening, I got 2 jobs. One at UCLA and one at Wayne State. And guess where I came? I came to UCLA.
UCLA.
So that's how my life changed, my friend.
And this black guy, travel agent in DC, what was his name?
Jimmy Dorsey.
Jimmy Dorsey.
So let me tell you what happened. So my son Afif, which you mentioned, about 9 months ago or so, he put a Facebook saying, this is the story of my dad. We are looking for the person who helped him.
So Jimmy, whoever, you never...
I never met him again.
He gave you the ticket and that was...
It's gone.
That was it?
Yeah, and then I took my...
And didn't he give you some money too or
he
something?
He gave me
$80 or something.
Yeah, he gave
back
me $80.
then? Okay.
Yeah. So Afif put it in Facebook. Washington Post picked it up, and you should
This
see
is this year, a few months
This year, yeah, maybe
2019.
6 months ago.
Middle of 2019.
Yeah. So when it went into the Washington Post, the story, you should see people reached out to me from all over the place. And then one professor at university in DC asked his journalist students, they taken a course in journalism, go find this guy, you know.
Because that's a story.
It's a story.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we found him. And so they wrote about it in Washington Post again. And then last month, Afif and his kids and his wife, we went and met the family, Jim Dorsey's family. So it was unbelievable.
He has since died. You
died.
didn't get a chance to meet him.
No.
You met his wife. So for you, you can't even go back to Kuwait because Saddam Hussein took it, and you're over in DC, hoping to get a job that will
keep me here.
What would you have done if you didn't?
I would have gone back to England because remember, my family is in England. I would find something in England. And this guy, when I came to DC, I had an English friend. I told him, I'm going to America. I'm going to get a job. He said, how long are you staying? I said, I'm staying 2 weeks. He said, you can't get a job in 2 weeks.
No
I say, I'm getting a job, my friend. And
why did you want to come to America? Why wouldn't you just stay in England?
You know, England is so funny. It's, if you are not one of the old boys club, you know, you are not English, you have no choice. That's the great thing about America. America will accept you. We are, as we say, country of immigrant.
Wow.
They give you the opportunity. And that's what people don't understand. This is a great country because they don't care about your background. Even though we have now the political situation is the same, but people are good here, they help you. And then once you do your thing, they will not stay in your way, they will help you. And that's exactly what happened to us as a family. From Jimmy Dorsey till today, always people help you. And it's great.
God, you're going to make me cry. I'm proud to be an American with that kind of story.
I tell you something, people don't realize, you know, I am fortunate because now I am professor, I go travel all over the world.
You're a big deal.
It's, you know, it's great, honestly, but I go all over the place and then I want to come home, which is, by the way, what? America.
Yeah.
Because it's a good place. It's a good place. It helped me and I am very happy. My kids grew up here and they contributing to the society. We are part of this place.
So you have come to America. You got that job at that dinner, this kind of string of events that, looking back on it now, if you wouldn't have gone to that, if he wouldn't have helped you out, probably
Who
you wouldn't
knows?
have had, who knows, but you
Yeah.
wouldn't have had that job,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah,
you wouldn't have been
no.
able to go to the dinner
No.
and all that.
It's like, you know, the film It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
We see it every Christmas.
Yeah.
You don't know what
With
would
Jimmy
have happened
Stewart
with
and-
Jimmy
yeah.
Stewart, okay? And I would have gone to England because, and then, you know, I would have gotten a job, but it is not the same.
But you would have maxed out at a
Maxed
certain. So what Afif told me was, it would have gone back to London, and you would have been kind of maybe a community college
Exactly.
professor type thing.
Yeah.
And here, thanks to Jimmy, what was his name?
Jimmy Dorsey.
Jimmy Dorsey helping you out, which I keep thinking about that, and I was like, I wonder what $80 was to him.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of money,
You
right?
know,
That wasn't pocket change.
When we met his family last month, you know, it was amazing, but they are really good people. It seems also we learned he is a really good guy. He was the first African-American firefighter volunteer in that town that he lives in, you know, in Virginia.
Wow.
And when we met, the mayor of the town came, the head of the firefighter chief came, because the story which came out in Washington Post helped them to raise more money for the firefighters.
That's great.
So it was all happy.
That's a legacy that
Yeah.
guy did that,
Yes,
and who
yeah.
he was, and now it's happening.
And now we started a scholarship to help somebody, you know.
In his name?
In his name.
What's the scholarship for?
It's to help a student who is, you know, unable to, sort of scholarship to help at least pay it forward as much as you can.
Wow.
And you know, it's so interesting when it was announced we have this scholarship, other people contact me. They were really touched by the story, and now they're putting money in that scholarship.
Oh wow.
It's amazing. Like
That is amazing.
It's like
I feel like there should be a book on this guy
oh
and
my
a movie
God.
and
Oh my
whatever.
God. It's really fantastic.
I love that story. God, I love that story. It makes me think about his generosity, and honestly, it makes me think about myself. And it's like, I don't want to say I feel a little guilty, but am I doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
You know, like how much of us look at that and we're like, wow.
You know, it really taught me, like even now when I have like postdocs, you know, or students and whatever, and you see an opportunity, you want to help them because somebody else helped me, you know. And that's how it is. We are all human beings. We are all, you don't realize if you do something, whatever you think it is not big, even though for Jimmy Dorsey was really a lot, $80 for somebody.
He had no
like that.
idea what it was going to do for you.
And guess what? It changed my life, my family. I came as one person. Now we are 11 with our grandkids and whatever.
Oh,
you
wow.
know? So my kids, their generation, all benefited from what Jimmy Dorsey did.
One man's
Yeah,
generosity.
One man's generosity, honestly.
Oh, that's so inspiring. So, total gut balance. You know, we've got one of the world's expert in microbiome. You go to UCLA to pursue further research. Tell me what it's like now with all of this attention going to the gut health and microbiome from your perspective as somebody who's been in that field for decades.
Yeah. You know, it's really very exciting period we live in with respect to the gut health.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time before, we used to think about, you know, you just eat and this sort, you think these microbes, we never thought of them as they help us. And now we're starting to figure out these microbes, they play a critical role in our not only digestive health, but in our overall wellness.
Yeah.
Studies now starting to show that, you know, if you have imbalance in these microbes in your gut, you can develop diabetes. You can have stress is big thing. We just completed a study, which I'm hoping to publish soon, about autistic kids, autism, and we found that there is a shift in the microbiome, not only bacteria, but also fungi in them. So now it is such...
There's a difference between the microbiome of an autistic child versus not.
Yes.
And so the question is that a causal
Very good question.
So is there something here that is
affect the brain?
Yeah.
And that's possible. Now what we want to do is try to understand this mechanism. And then we just put a grant.
What's going on
What's
there.
going on. Because once you understand this mechanism, you will be able, hopefully, to develop novel therapies, novel approaches to balance it. You know?
Yeah, that's the
So
exciting
it's
possibility
exciting.
of research that you can ultimately save lives and affect people with it.
So and that's why now what's nice about it is that not only the professional like yourself and myself and other people in the medical field recognize now this is important. Also, people start to know that you know what, it's in my hand. If I eat the right thing, if I have the right lifestyle, I'll be able to balance my gut, and guess what? I hope I will feel much better.
Yeah, you get the health benefits of it.
Yeah.
What was it like in the 90s and 2000s as this field was developing? What did you see as a researcher, and how did it end up getting to be such a big deal now?
Yeah, I think what happened, people used to all the time really think of the gut microbes, that, they are bad stuff if they grow, when you have diarrhea, when you have, they never thought about that, this could be a good thing. The nice thing with the advancement in the technology, like next generation sequencing, not only it told us
Next generation, you're talking about genes. You're talking about getting your whole set of genes. Yeah.
Getting your whole set of genes for us, but also we are able to take the microbes in our gut and see their genes and identifying them. This is the second phase of understanding our genes.
Oh, that's crazy.
That technology,
there's so much in there.
Exactly. They have more really genetic information than we have, these organisms, because there are thousands of them.
Right.
So it's...
that's overwhelming. That's incredible.
Overwhelming.
That's nothing you could have even dreamt of 5 years ago.
You see, because even before what happened, the change, you asked me about change, before when we take stool sample and we culture it in the lab, we take it, put the sample in the lab, we have some growth, but we are unable to grow some organisms there. So even though they live inside us, when you...
So you're unable to demonstrate it outside of the gut in a petri dish.
Exactly.
Right.
But this new technology, the next generation, you are able to get their DNA and know they are there.
Even though you can't demonstrate them in a petri dish.
You can't grow them in the petri dish, but we know they are there because we got their DNA. So that's where the
So one of the things that I really want your opinion on to try to give us, in the show is, as a doctor, I want to use the things that are going to work, that are proven. And we're at this place where it's like there's a lot of hope. And I think sometimes snake oil salesmen grab it and they say, this will help your gut, whatever. They start throwing all this nonsense out there.
Yeah.
But there is real genuine hope for all kinds of things, not just Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, see all these intestinal things, but mood disorders, depression, cardiovascular, all of these diseases. There is genuine hope that the more we learn, the more we're able to, not just diet, exercise, stress, and all this stuff, but maybe even have therapies for your gut. Like then it gets exciting. It's like, wow, and we're just tapping into it.
I really think this is the next phase. The first phase, we knew there are organisms. We know that they cause us health issues. Now, the exciting part is what can we do about it? Mm-hmm. And there are different approaches. You pointed some of them. Some of them, number one, I think having a appropriate diet, can help balance your gut. Also, having the right lifestyle can help. But in addition, especially in cases, let's say, as we said, autism, or somebody with diabetes, or cancer for that matter.
Yeah.
Okay? If we identify what is the dysbiosis or imbalance, we will be able to find ways, for example, as we were talking before about fecal transplant. We take some organisms from a healthy person, transfer it to somebody with C. diff, the infection C. diff, And guess what? They are really are cured. So now we want to do the same thing for the other diseases.
For other diseases. So let me explain this to people a little bit, because what you talked about, I have done poop transplants with patients. And in my experience, it's incredible. It's curative. It is crazy. It's crazy.
It really is.
Giving one person's poop into another and it cures them. So we'll have somebody, you know, there's a mild form of diarrhea, antibiotic-associated diarrhea. You take an antibiotic, you have the runs for a couple days, it goes away. But then there's a severe form of that.
Yeah.
The way I think about it, correct me if I'm wrong, certain antibiotics, Augmentin, Cipro.
Yeah.
We have people that are on antibiotics for weeks, months. They're on it for a long time.
Sure.
It kills gut bacteria, good and bad.
Yeah.
And if the bad overtakes it and overgrows it, especially bacteria called C. difficile, Clostridium difficile, that can be life-threatening. Causes colitis, very difficult to treat. People can get sick and die from it. And, you know, used to be we treated them with one antibiotic, Flagyl. That was first line. I don't remember the numbers, maybe 50%. If that didn't work, you used another antibiotic, vancomycin. That one's probably still the first line standard of care. But I would get patients who we would go through that, and they would be better for a little bit, and then they get sick again. And after you've already tried vancomycin, it was like, what are we going to do now? Yeah. Either they're on that antibiotic indefinitely, because whenever they stopped it, it just overgrew again, and then it was like, I have no idea where the idea came from. But I had patients that we couldn't get them off the vanco, and then we did poop transplant, called a fecal transplant, and it cured them, and they were fine. And I would see that, and I was like, that's crazy. It's so crazy. So you start with that, right? A very clear, severe form of antibiotic-associated diarrhea. And you have to make, it's like any transplant, you have to make sure they don't have HIV, you do testing, and make sure that they're appropriate match. And a lot of times people get it from family members. I don't want to talk about the process, but it's a colonoscopy and they drop it off. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going there. But anyway, the point is, if that can work for that, what if you took a skinny person's poo and you put it in somebody that's 500 pounds? Would that help? And then it's like, where do we stop?
Yes.
We don't do that. I've never seen that or done that. It's experimental right now. But that's, I can share in the excitement, especially for things that we can't cure. For things we don't have good answers for.
In fact, mentioning taking a fecal sample from a lean person, put it on somebody who is overweight, it helps. They already did experiments in animals where it showed this happens exactly that. They took from lean, put it to an obese, the obese became down, and they took from obese, put it to the lean became obese.
Really?
Yes,
so
this has been done. Yeah. Wow. So to me, what you are pointing at is really the future of how can we modulate the microbiome or change the microbiome. And fecal sample is good, but now people are starting to look at, can we select certain organisms? We don't have to give the whole feces. Let's select the good ones and then use those to hopefully get rid of a certain disease or not. However, this is going to take, of course, clinical trials and this sort of thing, but there is very big promise in that.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier to get money for this now.
Oh yeah.
For research and NIH grants and whatever. Yes. When you got started, money wasn't as easy to come by.
Yes, I really agree. It was difficult. Actually, I put a grant to study the interaction of bacteria and fungus in Crohn's disease. When I first put it, the reviewers, gave it good score, but not good enough to get the money.
When are we talking? 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
When I first came to the U.S.
In the 90s.
The 90s.
Okay.
I put a grant, not on this, on Candida.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult. I mean, it was really, you are absolutely...
To get money, nobody was interested in it.
Yeah. NIH funding was very difficult to get.
Is that where you get most of your grant money? Is the USA National Institute of Health?
National Institute of Health, yes, and National Institute of Health, as well as what I did because of the difficulties which we said of funding.
Yeah.
I developed methods to evaluate drugs for their antifungal activity that FDA would require any company to do these testing. So now I have these as part of my center, and guess what? Companies come to me and they say, you know, we have this compound, does it have antifungal? So I can test it in vitro, in vivo.
So
and
you
then
got the test.
I got the test. And
So
that
that's a
brings
source of
me
income for you.
source of income and
That's
for my
smart.
lab. So it's sort of like diversification in your
No, it's smart.
portfolio.
So let's talk a little bit about, and I want to explain, so I'm going to pick your book up. Where's that book? Where'd that book go? Because we're just talking right now generally about microbiome, and I want to get into, how are we doing on time, by the way?
You're right at 30 minutes right now.
Perfect.
good.
Do you need to take a break? You good?
No, good.
Okay. So again, I want to talk about this book. I read your book. It's incredible. Total Gut Balance for your microbiome. And I want to point out myco because the key part of you is the fungal part.
Yes.
We're normally talking about microbiome as bacteria, but you're adding the fungal part in there, and you think that is significant for people,
Absolutely.
right? Talk about that for a minute.
Absolutely. For years, I used to go to these meetings and everybody talking about bacteria. But based on my experience in my PhD, I know when you kill the bacteria, you are going to have fungus. So to me, I put 2 and 2 together and I said, look, we really need to look at both, because if you look at bacteria, you are only looking at half of the story.
Yeah.
And that's where we started. And the other thing which really was critical, I knew that they play together. It's like kids playing in a sandbox. If they play nicely, you are going to be in health.
How did you know that?
Because I
What
did
research or
biofilm.
what?
I was funded by the National Institute of Health to study biofilms, which is what you call, you know, when you go, you are.
What is biofilm? So
Biofilm.
tell us about that, because this is a big deal, part of your research, that
Yes.
this is big.
So let me tell you, biofilm, we all have seen biofilms. The best, simplest example is the plaque in our teeth. This is biofilm. Every
What
morning.
is that microbiology of biofilm?
So what it is organisms, they come together, or let's say let's make it simple. We take Candida alone. The first thing it does to cause issues, it sticks to something. Once it sticks, let's say, to our mouth, it starts to produce this, what you call matrix or gelatinous material, something like jello.
Okay.
And as the jello forms,
Because Candida is a fungus, so it's kind of like laying a fungal mate for it to kind of spread and continue to grow.
and produce some sugars. These sugars become like jello. It's like when you make jello, and inside the jello,
That's part of their matrix of growth, and then what? Bacteria comes in on that,
and then they
that's the
started.
biofilm.
We showed that they, by themselves, they can make biofilm, but when you add bacteria, the biofilm become much bigger.
So that they're being commensal, but that's often pathologic for us.
Exactly.
So the Candida, which is a fungus, and then the bacteria, I think in the gut, the biofilm you said was E. coli and Serratia,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you got 2 bacteria and 1 fungus, and it's like they're building a big structure together that causes us problems, from plaque in your teeth to what? What other examples of biofilm in the body?
Another example is in the gut. We found that in our gut, these organisms, they form digestive biofilm, or we call it digestive plaque. It's like the plaque in your teeth. It's similar to what you have when you put a catheter, organisms stick, they start forming this matrix, the jello, which protects them, and then you have catheter infection. That's exactly what happened in
I've seen them.
Also, of course, as ER, you see it all the time. And it's, you know what's the secret about them is that they are resistant to antimicrobials.
Oh, the biofilm.
You can kill them. And also our host cells, like the immune cells, are unable to break them down. So sort of they have a city with a wall around it.
Makes sense.
They protect it.
So what do we do about it?
So what we do about it, we, with the gut, we did a study after we knew what organisms are involved, Candida, E. coli.
Wait a minute. How did you even discover the biofilm in the first place?
I was studying it. The first study I did many years ago was on, the easiest. I looked at the teeth. And I got denture material. Denture, because you have...
Why would you even look? I'm like, if I'm you, why were you like, let me look at the teeth? Why wouldn't you look at the ear, or the fingernail? I'm like, why'd you pick the teeth?
Because I could make a model. I can have a denture material and I can build a biofilm on it.
Because you can study.
I can study it.
Yeah,
That's why I went there.
Okay.
And then after I did this, I was able to develop a rabbit model where I can put a catheter and make a biofilm. I want to tell you this story. This is a very interesting story.
Oh, I want to hear it.
So we had a rabbit model. We put a catheter. We put Candida there, and it made biofilm. And then, of course, the rabbit became sick. So what we did, we tested all the available antifungal drugs, and we found one that works.
Fluconazole, amphotericin.
This was amphotericin B, which is the liposomal.
That thing is
which
a
is,
nasty
isn't it?
drug.
Yeah, it's called amphotericin.
It's amphoterrible. It's powerful, but there's so many side effects.
Yes,
you have to be careful with it.
So we took that drug, which we found that it is in vitro and the test tube works. We put it into the rabbit, and guess what?
It didn't work.
It worked.
It did work.
Yeah. Not fluconazole did not work.
Amphotericin did.
Especially the liposomal form, worked.
Oh, because it was able to penetrate it, you think?
It was able to break down the jello. So guess what? We published this paper.
Yeah.
And 1 year after, a group in Italy published a paper saying they had a baby with Provia catheter with biofilm infections. They could not pull the catheter. You know, babies don't have many.
So they couldn't trade out or put a new one. So you're stuck with it.
Stuck with it. They put the solution, the same drug we did. Guess what? The baby recovered.
They used amphotericin to treat the baby, and then the baby.
And the baby became good. And when it came out, I went to the lab. I said, guys, look, our model saved the baby.
It did. Your research saved the life of a baby in Italy.
It was so exciting.
That's incredible.
And you know, about maybe 3-4 years after, I met the guy in a meeting in if I remember correctly, because you know, every year you a different place in Europe. I think it was in Madrid. He came to me, he said, oh, Dr. Ghannoum, I was speaking. Your paper we use in the project. I say, oh my God, unbelievable. It was great, great time.
That's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations. And it's a great story to show exactly why doing research can have these. It's great, right? It's similar to your Jimmy story. He did something down. You never know. You do your research and then save the life. You never know.
So, and that's the same now. When we start looking at Crohn's, we looked at the biofilms, and lo and behold, we found that they form biofilm there, which is really thick biofilm. And we published that papers. When we published that paper, you should see, oh my God, how many emails, how many phone calls.
It blew up.
It blew up, and it like the media picked it up, and then parents.
And this was, how long ago was the biofilm one?
2016.
16. So that was
Crohn's,
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, and that's when people start to say, look, I have a son, he has Crohn's, I have a daughter, she's going to college, she has this, how can you help us? And that's where Afif, he said, Dad, you have to do something about this. Let's start, let's look into this. And we founded a company where we have a probiotic, Biome it's called, but also I started looking into this area, and that's where a book agent in New York called me. He said, when he saw the paper about the biofilm and Crohn's, he said, you have to write a diet book. I said, what? He said, you have to do a diet book. You will be able. So after talking with him, I said, I don't know a lot about the nutrition. He said, no, I have some people to help you. So we put a team together, and that's the result of that team.
I was looking at it. It's got all kinds of pictures of you know, healthy, a lot of vegetables, grains.
Pictures to your camera.
Sorry, I thought I was showing it to the camera. That's why I have a team helping me to.
A little higher, a little higher. Right.
How do we like that?
Yeah, perfect.
Look at that. You got a lot of. Actually, I was looking at this. Those pictures. And I'm like, oh, that looks good. I'm gonna make some of that.
It really. We started now. My wife cooking something, and she did the other day salmon and pistachio covered and asparagus, and oh my God, that's really
Settle
really,
down boy.
Really nice.
Calm down.
So that's what we put the team, and it took us about 2 years to get all the references, the support, to do more research, and we did a clinical trial actually in this. It was a proof of concept trial,
Yeah.
and now we are doing a larger trial, and lo and behold, oh my God, this works. We showed that it rebalances the microbiome. We have more healthy, like bifidobacterium bacteria, you know. We had also decrease in Candida. So, and then when we looked at the symptoms of these people, you know, at the beginning they had some constipation, some, you know, bloating, they had some abdominal pain. At the end of 4-week trial, they improved. And you know, to our surprise, which I didn't know, it wasn't this a book for weight loss. They lost up to 10 pounds in the 4-week trial. So, wow, that was really good. And
so let's talk about this diet book. How can you use total gut balance, your microbiome, to lose weight, to feel better? How can you use that diet to do that?
So what you do, we have selected foods that will decrease or inhibit the growth of bad fungus, such as sugar, refined sugar.
Candy bars.
Bars, yeah,
whatever.
Yes.
Sweets.
All these
cupcakes,
sweets,
cake.
Sweeteners and whatever. I know I love them, but you know.
So what happens? So you eat that, and Candida grows more in here. Like, you've talked about Candida a lot. What is Candida? What is that thing?
Okay, Candida is what you call a fungus that normally is present in about 50% of us. You can find it in the mouth. I did actually a study with my students when I say, listen, if you give me a swab of your mouth, I'll give you, at that time I didn't know that, I was not wise about the diet, I'll give you donuts, okay? So
You'll give them Candida
I mean, it's more.
Food.
It's terrible. It's
How
terrible.
could you do that?
But that was many years ago. You have to excuse me for this. So
forgiven.
anyway, 50% of the people have it. So the issue is Candida at low level, when it is colonizer, it's fine. The problem
doesn't cause disease or problems.
The only time it starts causing diseases, if you have, as you say, use antibiotic, you kill the bacteria which keeps it under control. If you are immunocompromised, for example, cancer patients with all the radiation, with all the chemotherapy, your immunity is down.
Yeah.
And that's why I call Candida, it's the disease of the immunocompromised.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are healthy, it's unbelievable. It doesn't do anything. Our body's immunity is
lives
great.
side by side.
Side by side.
Your immune system keeps it at bay. It doesn't cause disease.
And also, in fact, it helped us sometimes. Sometimes.
How does it help?
Because it trains our immune system. You know, it's at low level. Also, it breaks down some complex compounds, nutrients, you know, which provide byproducts for bacteria to eat, and then by themselves, by growing, they produce all these good metabolites like short chain fatty acids and whatever. So
it's that mutually beneficial kind of symbiosis.
Exactly,
inside,
exactly. So Candida, if you look at it from the disease state, in the people who are immunocompromised or on steroids and whatever, it is really the most important fungal infection.
Yeah,
you know.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, others are really way behind it, such as aspergillus, for example. Aspergillosis, which causes in the lung.
Aspergillosis.
Exactly.
We were talking about coccidiomycosis. That's valley fever, which I've seen plenty in the Central Valley. It kind of looks like pneumonia or TB in your lungs.
So it is one of the primary pathogen. Okay. Now, the issue about it is we just need to be careful how to can manage it, and we can manage it by the diet and by definitely exercise also.
So let me talk to you. I want to get into the recommendations of this book in terms of the lifestyle stuff.
Okay.
Let me talk about Candida for just a minute, kind of from the hospital doctor side of things that I see. I agree with you. Definitely the #1 fungus that causes disease. So if I went from like head to toe, thrush, you know, this white plaque in your mouth, down your throat, it's kind of a classic HIV presenting thing where the Candida in the mouth, when the immune system is low and doesn't keep it at bay, it overgrows. You get this terrible sore throat and just these sores and kind of this white plaque. That's just the fungus.
Sure.
You treat it, you know, you want to treat somebody's immune system, treat the HIV, and then you treat it with, you know, antifungal medications to get it better. The second common cause of Candida is yeast infection.
Yeast infection.
I mean, that's the most common thing, but this is the second thing that I think of. Just regular yeast infections, which, like I was saying before, you said tetracycline, so common that when I give women antibiotics, I will sometimes give them, I'll say either eat yogurt, a treatment for a yeast infection can be intravaginal.
Sure, sure. You can have
yogurt. You can,
yeah.
Okay, anyway. I'm glad somebody's listening in the crowd on that one. So yeast infections are more common after antibiotics.
Sure.
Why is that?
Because you are killing the lactobacillus, which is the good bacteria that keeps Candida under control.
The good bacteria, so like the gut has kind of good bacteria, the vagina has good bacteria.
Yes, yes.
So antibiotics kill lactobacillus and then kind of open the door for a yeast infection to kind of take over.
Exactly. And also, you know, with respect to the reproductive system, you have also hormones, the hormonal status, you know, affect also Candida, encourages its growth sometimes. So, but I would say the most important factor is the antibiotic, because you are killing the
antibiotic does it a lot.
Yeah.
Let me give you a couple other examples of just fungus to kind of put this in perspective. So a diaper rash on a baby, that very red, if they're pooping a lot and it's just so moist, that's a situation where fungi tend to grow more. And then also have patients that are obese, and so underneath their belly, where the skin is hot and sweaty and moist, again, similar thing, Candida, kind of fungus can, and so like what's the treatment? Keeping it clean, keeping it dry, and then sometimes we use powders, medications, and so forth. So that's kind of an overview of just some basic Candida things and how it causes diseases. And then again, to bring it back to this conversation, it is fascinating that is part of this, the biofilm on your teeth, your gut, and whatever. So, okay, so there's that. So what can we do lifestyle-wise? I'm going to turn to your book. In terms of diet, exercise, sleep, stress, all that stuff, how does that, let me tie this in another way, okay? Let's get this bad boy out here for just a second. That's right, ding. So, ding,
That's really
ding. Okay, so when I wrote this book, different book, not an academic book, I did do a ton of research, and it was like vegetables. It was like the most 100% true thing was the more vegetables you eat, you will live longer.
I agree.
What's interesting to me is that every decade we have a different explanation for why. For why, right?
Yes.
Why? The why now is because of how it interacts with the gut bacteria. The why 10 years ago was the antioxidants.
Yes.
Because vegetables are high in antioxidants, and that reduces the free radicals. So we have a different explanation that will evolve, and it will continue to evolve as we learn more. That is the nature of science. So when I wrote this thing, it wasn't in the era of gut whatever. So I see it as you eat healthy, right?
Yes, definitely.
And we can talk about what that looks like in terms of food that supports good bacteria and doesn't
Yes.
encourage bad bacteria. We're going to talk about that. You eat healthy. We're not sure exactly how, but you have all these endpoints of your blood pressure is lower, your weight's lower, your blood sugar, your whatever, you live longer, right? We know that vegetables do that. The mechanism of how, it's interesting to me, it changes all the time as they're not.
Yes.
So what is the explanation now for why vegetables, et cetera, healthy food, result in all of these health benefits?
First of all, I think it's still true that vegetables are great with antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, all these good minerals, vitamins, and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what's changed now is vegetables have good source of fiber, for example. And these fibers will be food for the good bacteria. So by growing up this good bacteria, it does two things. Number one, it keeps the bad ones out, such as Candida, which is benefit. And number two, as byproduct of their growth, they produce these molecules like short-chain fatty acids, which helps our immunity. It improves your immune system. It also communicates with the brain, as we talked before. So it brings not only good environment for the gut, but also it puts you in good mood. It makes you less depressed. So vegetables, good source of fibers, as well as good protein source. Instead of having a protein from meat, you have a protein from plants is much more beneficial. In fact, they did a study and they compared proteins from plant versus those from red meat, and they found that the red meat increased the growth, or the proteins, from red meat, increased the growth of the what you call bile-loving or pro-inflammatory microbes, okay? Whereas
bad bacteria.
Bad bacteria, to put it simply.
Yeah.
But the proteins from plants did not. So you are not only you are helping the good guys to grow and produce the good byproducts, but also you are not encouraging the bad ones to grow.
So I want to highlight something that you said here that I think is such a key change and big deal, which is, we used to think you eat food, your body breaks it down, and you absorb the nutrients from the food. That's still true, like you said.
Sure.
Now, and I just have to put a plug for fiber. So when I wrote my book, I was like, I want to identify 5 principles that will never change despite all these fad diets. And one of them was eat your fiber, like more than 30 grams, 50 grams. The more fiber you eat, which is in fruit and vegetables, beans, healthy food, the more fiber you eat, it's more powerful than any pill at reducing the main causes of death, which is cardiovascular disease and cancer. And I was like, wow, fiber's incredible. And here's the explanation why. You just said it. The explanation is because we absorb the parts of plants, the vitamins, minerals, and so forth. Fiber is the non-absorbable part that doesn't go out of our intestines. And you just said, so what does it do? That's the food for good bacteria.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's so true.
Yes.
And so that's another part. It's a huge part of this picture where it's like, this non-digestible fiber. I think of it like celery, so much of that stuff. There's nothing in that we absorb. All of that celery that passes through, the good bacteria eats that, right?
Yes.
I'm going to bring up another thing. This is all from your book. I learned a lot of this today reading your book. And this gets confusing, but I want you to weigh in on this too. There's prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Let me explain, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Probiotics are the bacteria.
Yes.
Prebiotics are, like I was saying, the fiber, the food that feeds the bacteria. The prebiotics feeds the probiotics. And then the postbiotics, that's the, I would say, metabolites. That's the stuff that the good bacteria make in your gut that helps you, right? So that's the mechanism. You eat the good food that has fiber, the healthy bacteria eat the fiber, and then they produce stuff that's good for you. And that's that commensal
Exactly.
symbiotic thing that's so exciting, because it's like,
Yes.
what are those things that
Yes.
those guys are
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Right? I just wanted to highlight that there. And so the next question that I want you to explain to all these guys are, what are the foods that are good, besides vegetables, what are the foods that are good for these bacteria, and what are the ones that we should stay away from? In here, I'm going to open this up.
Yes.
Because you talked all about it in there.
Yes,
You laid
we
it
did.
out. And it's subtly different,
Yeah.
like keto,
Yes, exactly. Because they don't have
paleo,
any
Mediterranean, they're all a
legume.
little different.
le-
So tell me the good ones. What
So
are
the good ones, like if you look at the Mediterranean diet, okay? The Mediterranean diet had great food. You have all the vegetables, you have all the oil, it has fish. Fish is a great source of good proteins, okay? So that's really good.
Not red meat, but fish.
Fish, or poultry for that, if chicken.
Chicken
is
and fish
also
are okay.
are really good source of protein. Of course, the most, as you mentioned, the best is proteins from plants is really great. Now, you have the legumes, the nuts. The nuts are fantastic. Like, for example, there is a study which looked at pistachios. And pistachios are the super nut for feeding the good bacteria. Okay.
Pistachios more than almonds or
more
peanuts.
than almonds. They compared almonds in this study with
Interesting.
pistachio. Almonds are good, but pistachio were better.
For
you know?
good bacteria in the gut.
And then you have
I'm going to eat more pistachios because you said that.
You laugh at me because
No, I'm serious. I am.
No, at work I have bags these of pistachios. You know, at 10 o'clock in the morning I get hungry. Okay, I eat my pistachios or
No more donuts.
no. I told my student, no, don't touch it.
What? Okay, so what? And then what are? Okay, so you said kind of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, legumes,
Berries.
fish, chicken, berries.
Berries are great,
Yeah.
because they have been shown to really support the growth of good organisms. And of course, you have the cruciferous vegetables are great for what
Broccoli
you mentioned.
and-
Broccoli, asparagus,
Yeah.
broccolini. This is
Not surprising, right? Like when you
Yeah.
eat your vegetables as a kid, like I would put
Yeah.
this as the kind of, these are healthy foods, duh. Now we have a better explanation for why.
Why, exactly.
So let's talk about the foods that are not, or that maybe feed bad bacteria or don't.
One of them, which was mentioned by the audience, is saturated fat, for example.
Saturated fat.
Anything with saturated, the meat, for example, or whole milk, dairy product.
Fried fruit,
Fried fruit,
red meat, especially fatty,
refined sugars,
whole milk,
whole
stuff.
milk.
Okay.
I'm not saying don't eat dairy. Dairy is good, but either you take it low fat,
Skim or one. Your book said 1%.
yeah, 1%
maximum.
or no fat, non-fat.
Okay.
Yeah, this really is very good.
So let's get into a little bit of some of these controversies. Is dairy, can it support good bacteria in the gut?
Yeah,
Low,
because you see,
if it doesn't
has
have too much
some-
saturated fat.
Exactly, that's the key. Like I'm against the idea of we should not eat dairy. Dairy are good because it has the minerals, it has
Does
the
have some gut
vitamins,
benefits.
it has the casein, the good proteins, so that helps us.
Okay.
So by eating the non-fat, you are getting the good stuff, but you are eliminating the saturated fat.
So let's talk about milk and dairy for just a second. So there is lactose intolerance, which is a big deal. It's a clinical, bloating, discomfort, diarrhea, so forth, because you don't have the enzyme lactase to digest dairy. In the absence of that, or people that have problems tolerating it, it sounds like you're saying from a gut health perspective, you think it is healthy.
It's fine.
Yeah.
That's where I designed the diet. I designed the diet so that it has diversity, it has flexibility, and it is sustainable. In other words, if you have lactose intolerance, there are other choices. If you are vegetarian, there are other choices, but you need to make sure you have enough proteins, because sometimes,
Sure.
So it's a matter of how best to select something that is beneficial, yet you can continue on this diet, and I looked at diets such as the Mediterranean diet, and I mentioned it's really great, but it has some great dependence sometimes on complex carb too much and too much grains.
Like too much bread or
pastas,
okay.
and the sort of thing. So if we cut those down, that's good. The other thing which it does, it has too much alcohol. You know, people are sitting in the Mediterranean Sea and Italy or Spain or whatever, you're enjoying yourself. One glass is enough a night, like 3 times a week or something.
Yeah.
So we tried to eliminate.
What is the effect of alcohol on the gut, good and bad bacteria?
I think too much of it definitely can cause imbalance and increase the bad bacteria.
Yeah.
But a little bit is fine.
Talk to me about low carb and keto diets in terms of gut bacteria, gut health, good and bad.
Yeah. You know, low carb, I think our body, as you know better than me, it needs energy, it needs different sugars, the carb, let's call it carb.
Yeah.
It needs proteins, it needs fat. So we need to select the right carb. So to me, carb you should eat, but what type of carb? You need not the refined carb.
Chips, as opposed to, you know, whole grain brown rice.
Exactly. Or
sweet potato.
Sweet potatoes, oat. You have a lot of the resistant starch, like in bananas, in the unripened side.
Yeah.
These are good because, and even then, what you need to do, don't eat too much carb in one setting. Try to take one serving at each meal, like in the morning, and instead of taking 2 loaves of bread, you know, like I come from Beirut where we eat so much pita bread.
I love bread.
That's the problem, but you need to cut it.
Maybe not
a
so
little
much.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like how this is kind of a moderate, balanced thing. But so let's go back to keto a little bit, where you go to the extreme of really no carbs. What do you see from a higher, because keto is low carb, higher fat as a source of energy. How does that affect the gut?
I mean, 2 things. Because of this fats, saturated fats and this sort of thing, as you know, it does not help our microbiome. The other thing, because they take no legumes, the grains and this sort of thing, and we are not feeding the good organism. There is no prebiotic, which is really important for us.
So keto takes out some good stuff.
Exactly.
In some of these, and then a little too high fat can also support the body. So you'd say no to keto based on your research?
Based on that, yes. I mean, that's why I think you really need to adjust it. You can look at, say, a diet and you like it. Try to get rid of, keep the good stuff, get rid of the bad stuff.
So I like that it's moderate, you know, what you're talking about. I think it is, there's kind of a consensus healthy diet, and now we have this explanation for it. Talk to me about other lifestyle things. So that's the diet side, and that's a lot of the focus of this microbiome. But talk to me about how your research has shown in terms of exercise, stress, sleep. Again, these lifestyle things that we know make a difference, how that plays out in the gut microbiome.
So, as you mentioned, for lifestyle, the sleep, the exercise, the stress, let's say these are the main stuff we can talk about, you know.
Yeah.
Now, stress is really of a critical factor. Why? Because studies have shown that if you are stressed, you have really imbalance in your gut. You have more bad organisms. In fact, one of the people who participated in the trial, we looked at her microbiome and it was out of balance. It was not good.
More bad bacteria than good bacteria.
Yeah. And then we looked at what she is eating. She's eating fantastic, good food. So then what we have a questionnaire to ask her about sleep, about stress, about what you eat, exercise, so on and so forth. And when we looked through, she was severely stressed.
So she was eating well and exercising and even sleeping.
Yeah, but her stress level is very, very high. And that, remember what we talked before about the gut-brain axis. When you are stressed, that affect the microbiome in your gut.
What is the mechanism? How does the gut affect? How does stress affect the gut, and how does gut affect your mood?
It's the bidirectional communication between the gut microbes, and the enteric, basically, nerves in and the brain. Okay, so if you have, let's say, if you have imbalance in your gut, in other words, we have a lot of bad microbes, then they are sending chemicals to the brain which affect the serotonin, for example. Okay, and by changing that serotonin, it's going to affect your mood and depression.
So the gut can be a source of either increasing the serotonin or neurotransmitters or whatever they are to elevate your mood and to make you feel better, or it can do the exact opposite.
Exactly.
So stuff coming from your gut can really affect the way you feel and your mood and stuff like that.
Yes.
And again, like doing these things can help you feel better.
Much better. Much better.
Sleep, exercise, and whatever.
Yeah. And as I mentioned in the trial, people reported better sleep, and they did not wake up at night as much as that. So more energy, for example. So all of these benefits come from balancing your both bacteria and fungus.
Something that I think was really interesting that I read in here about exercise.
Yeah.
You talked about a benefit of exercise to the gut. Again, I'm always thinking, like, how does exercise, like, food makes a lot of sense to me. It goes right through there. The fiber provides the food for the good bacteria, for the probiotics. But how does exercise affect the gut? Like, what's the mechanism of that?
They did a study in Ireland where with rugby players, like our football players here, they are tough guys, these guys, and this sort of thing. And what they found, that they had imbalance because they have extreme exercise. A lot of the time when you are exercising, all the blood, where does it go? To our, legs, arms, and this sort of thing. So you are creating a situation they're not optimal for those organisms and for our gut environment. So that's why, to me, look, you have to exercise, but be moderate. Half an hour. I can tell you what I do. I wake up in the morning. I do a little bit of stretching, a bit of yoga, like maybe 10, 15 minutes. But then I go into the elliptical machine, half an hour, and I love the elliptical machine. It doesn't give any pressure in your knee.
Oh, you like how it's
I like it,
low impact, and you get rolling.
Yeah. Because I used to run, and then my knees are not good.
Yeah.
So now it's so nice. Half an hour, done. At the weekend, I don't exercise because I take my dog for walks more often. So moderation, even in exercise, is really very important.
I remember reading that in the book, how you, and I don't remember the Irish guy part, but, and I want to echo this, is there are benefits to exercise, but then, like anything, and I think this is so important with social media because there's so many extremes.
Exactly.
This like extremely low body fat, these extremely muscular whatevers. And in this case, you're saying, hey, there is too much, it can hurt you, keep it moderate. If you exercise too much, it will, hurt, cause imbalance in your gut and whatever. I think that's an important kind of thing to remember on this.
I really agree with you. Again, I think if you have a moderate approach to things, moderation, I think it's good.
Right.
The problem is people go, I want to exercise, and then they go kill themselves. No, take it easy.
They just go
enjoy
crazy.
Enjoy it. If you can't even, sometimes also you need to feel like you do, I'm sure. You need to listen to your body. Exercise sometimes, elliptical, I'm in the morning and I feel my ankle is not good, so okay, I'm not gonna
listen to your body.
Listen to your body.
When you need rest and
do
sleep and
else.
Taking a day off.
Exactly.
Varying your exercise. Okay, this will be a good one. So for one of the world's experts in gut health and nutrition, what do you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What kind of exercise, sleep, and what lifestyle habits do you have?
I really, what I do in the morning, I like oatmeal, steel cut oatmeal. I like that. I like to have some berries with them. I really love that. I don't if I want to have, I don't add sugar, obviously, but if I want a little bit sweet, you can put 1 spoon of honey. I think honey is great, but not too much of it. Again, 1 spoon is plenty. It will give you the taste you want. That's during the week mainly.
So your breakfast is oatmeal and berries.
And berries.
Okay.
And then about 10 o'clock when I'm at work, I start to feel a little bit hungry, so I eat my nuts. I mentioned pistachio.
So you have pistachios as a snack?
A snack.
Okay.
And then at lunchtime, either I have salad, where with sometimes a chicken or some tuna or something.
Salad and protein.
Salad and protein.
Yeah, lean protein.
Or I love soup. Sometimes they make really this lentil soup.
Lentil soup, bean soup.
Celery, as you say. And I love that. So that's what I do at lunchtime. In the evening, my wife, she does a great food, you know. So I love fish, by the way, salmon. I love any type of fish, which is not a surprise coming from the Middle East. You know, in the Mediterranean. That's how we used to see the people pass by, you know, from fishermen. So we have fish, we have chicken, roast chicken, and then a medley of vegetables, you know, roasted vegetables, and it's great.
Sounds healthy.
It's really healthy. It's fun.
You look good. Look like you're in good shape.
I try.
Well, this has been good.
Thank you very much.
Good.
It's really great.
Let's so this is exciting. This is season 2, baby. We're changing things up. We've got a live studio audience. We're gonna take some questions from the audience for the doctor.
So how does intermittent fasting fit into all of this?
You know, I was reading about intermittent fasting. It is, as you know, it is something new. This is just came out. The problem with judging it is we really don't have enough experience to know the benefits. And there are some reports, people say it really has some side effects. And I tried to look into it. And I must say, what I would like to say is we should wait a little bit. Hopefully we'll have more evaluation which gonna tell us. So I don't like to prejudge it because there isn't enough. It's a new. We don't. Now, having said that, I am from Lebanon and people used to fast. So one thing I would warn if you want to do this intermittent fasting, so you fast, then you go and eat. When you have the period to eat, don't overeat. I remember people used to fast and they don't eat at all, neither eat or drink, by the way, from sunrise to sunset. But in the evening, they start eating everything and you have special sweets, special stuff. I don't think it's gonna help you like that. So you need to be cautious when you have this separation because you are hungry. You know, if you fast 8 hours, I remember I used to fast and you feel hungry, you need to eat. And then if you are not careful, you may overeat. So that's what I would say.
I would throw a quickie thing about intermittent fasting and pointing out that he's a researcher. There were initial studies that were promising that were like, if you eat the same amount of calories, there may be additional benefits to intermittent fasting. That's why everything got all excited. As you know, research takes years, and the research is catching up with that. And stuff that I have seen is like, maybe it's not as promising as the initial stuff. That said, it is a way for people to, you know, if you eat at a 6-hour window or an 8-hour window and you don't eat the rest of the day, a lot of people say that it helps them to lose weight. That's how they keep it off. So I think it's okay to try.
Yeah.
For a lot of people I've seen, it does a lot for helping control their appetite. Sure. Knowing that they have a moment where they can eat as much as they want, apparently, and they don't have to snack and have breakfast, lunch, and dinner kind of thing. Because I think breakfast, lunch, and dinner is more dependent on culture and person.
But you said something very, very important, which I really know to be true. When you fast, you really train your body, you know, to eat less. You have your appetite you control. You start to have
discipline. Yeah.
You know, really you feel, you know, there is some good discipline. And also another social sort of interest is that you realize people who are hungry or don't have food, you start to feel with them anyway. Like, but this has nothing to do with weight loss or whatever. So it has certain benefit, at least psychological, you know. So
we have some other questions. Yes, sir.
Well, well, some products have like oh, this one's less sugar, and then some will be like low fat. So if you went up to something in the aisle, which one would you pick?
You know, whenever I go in the aisle, I look at really the sugar. I find the sugar sometimes, like in a can of Coke or something, like 30 or 40 grams of sugar. I think this is not good. I don't like it. Also, I don't like diet drinks which has sweeteners, because we did a study and we published.
Tell us a little bit more about that in terms of, you're saying artificial sweeteners and stuff. What's the effect of that on the gut health?
We did a study which was published, I think about a year and a half ago, where we used the artificial sweetener Splenda, and looked at the microbiome change, and we found that there is an increase of a bacterial phylum called protobacteria. This protobacteria is known to be pro-inflammatory. So bad bacteria. So that's why I don't think it's a good idea to have these artificial sweeteners.
So you did a study with an artificial sweetener and showed that the a particular bad bacteria in the blood went up. So
yes,
maybe less of that.
And I used to, when I was young, a boy, to drink tea. We put a lot of sugar and whatever. But you know, I stopped doing that long time ago, actually. And you start to enjoy, to me, you enjoy the flavor of the tea, or the coffee even. But it takes a little bit of time, training.
I think for the kind of sugar, artificial sweetener, Coke's probably the worst. And then you've got Diet Coke, and then you've got water, right?
Exactly.
So there's a gradation to it.
Yes.
To your question, your dilemma about if your choice is between high sugar, low fat, and low sugar, high fat, what do? I don't know. Those are not great really choices, right?
Yeah.
Why do we have to do?
Why are you in that aisle?
Go to the vegetable aisle.
Go to the vegetable aisle, my friend.
But go where that guy tells you to go. The vegetable aisle.
Yeah.
Do we have other questions? We wrapping it up?
We're running out of time.
All right.
Thank you very much.
This was great. So I want you to close. So where are we?
It's 25. We're really tight.
No. I mean, so go to what website?
TotalGutBook.com.
TotalGutBook.com. You can buy this book on Amazon
and Barnes and Nobles, and Costco. Also, you should visit Dr. Microbiome.
So why don't you say any other calls to action?
No, Dr. Microbiome will have all the info on him, his biome line of products, the book, everything, or you can direct them to...
Yeah, say all that stuff to that camera and thank everybody, and we'll wrap it up.
Well, to get more information, it will be a good idea to go to Dr. Microbiome, drmicrobiome.com. It's going to provide you with a lot of information about the diet, also a community to join and help you. And also, if you have any questions, hopefully you can have answers in there. And finally, I want to thank you very much for having me in here, and I really enjoyed myself. It's a great show.
No,
thank you.
My pleasure. We're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Take a screenshot. Tag me in it. I'd love to hear from you. I will reply. As always, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and the YouTube channel, and we will see you next time.